In today's video, I'm going to talk about testing your track. From time to time, you need to clean the track, and there's plenty of videos out there, and we'll probably do one on how to clean the track. But when your layout gets to a certain size, you might have a couple of older models that don't like certain sections of the track, or their pickups aren't as good as they used to be. So what I normally do is I have one or two trains that I use as test trains that I run around the layout, occasionally looking for weak spots. And sometimes it's easy to do. You can see the train slow down when it's running at a consistent speed. But other times it just slows down a little bit and speeds up, and you might not necessarily detect that, especially if it's going through a tunnel or some other piece of scenery. So what I like to do is I like to use a train that has some form of light on it. And for a long time I used to use these dock shunters. Unfortunately, the dock shunters are having a problem getting over the pico points. And I've had a problem for a while with one of these. It's actually this older dock shunter number 5. It doesn't look that old. It's actually about 30, 40 years old, if not older than that. And if you look here, it's probably from the early 60s. You can see that the wheels are actually ridged, and this ridge pattern on the wheels actually hits the piece of plastic on the newer track, and unfortunately it causes it to bounce up and down and derail once it goes around a curve or over a set of points. And the reason for this is the wheel flanges are pretty deep, and this part, as well as the riveting, causes it to hit that. So unfortunately this particular model is limited now to running on Series 3 and Series 4 track, which I have a little bit of. And but it was a pretty nice model, especially since it's got the light on there, and it's pretty good for picking up bad spots on the track. So for the layout, we've had another layout for a while. It was a test layout that I built last year, and unfortunately this particular model ran perfectly fine on that layout because I was using Hornby points, a lot of older Hornby points. But on the new layout that we built recently, it's got a lot of pico points and a lot more complicated point work, and unfortunately the wheel flanges are just a little too deep on this model, and it too, as soon as it crosses those points, will derail. But it was identical to the older Triang one, so we had to retire that one as well. So to replace it, I decided to rig something up, because the lights on the HSTs, we have quite a few HSTs. Some of them are older Hornby ones that don't have lights. Some of them are newer ones that do, and we have some of the LIMA ones that don't have any lighting at all. And unfortunately the directional light just isn't strong enough, and sometimes it's not as bright as it was with the dock shunters. So it's a little tricky to spot bad spots on the track, and you can't tell if it's the track or the pickup on the way that the Hornby have designed the lighting on those models. So what we decided to do was to rig something up. So what I have here is a pretty simple circuit. It's a high intensity, low voltage LED, and it's white, and it runs into this rectifying diode, and then into a 330 ohm resistor, and then it's wired directly into the motor. So one side of the LED is wired to the side of the motor down this original wire. It's soldered directly into the LED. I apologize now, but I'll explain why we have this all taped up with electrical tape. Then the other side here goes into the resistor, and then into this rectifying diode. I'm not sure if you can see that in the video. And then the rectifying diode is connected to the other side of the motor. So it's a pretty cheap setup. I think I got 2 LEDs for about $2 at Radio Shack. It was about $1 or $2 for the set of resistors, and another $1 or $2 for that. So you're probably looking at most a couple of dollars to buy the stuff, but in reality I've probably used less than a dollar's worth of components here. So we just wired that all up and did some initial soldering on it and ran some tests. Now the first problem that we had was the rectifying diode here would occasionally hit this one whenever it turned, because the wires were kind of short. So that's why we taped all this up, was to stop the wires grinding themselves either off the weight or off this pin here. And it's important that you make sure this pin is clear, because it actually controls the turning of the bogie. So if that's actually taped up, it's going to derail as soon as it hits a curve. But this is actually a very nice setup. The light is extremely bright. It's easy to detect problems on the track where there's a couple of cleaning issues. We ran tests earlier, and there's some of the point work was a little dirty, and this was able to dim. The train ran fine, but the light actually dimmed, so it works pretty well. And the reason I used the rectifying diode is this is actually a test circuit. I plan to try to get directional lighting working. We're going to modify another older Hornby model in the same way, but we're going to change this LED to a more prototypical low light, low intensity, probably a little higher voltage LED. Probably use a bigger resistor, and hopefully we'll be able to get something rigged up to do directional lighting. So when I talk about directional lighting, what I'm ultimately trying to do with this circuit is come up with a way that when you're going one way, it's white and the rear is red, and you flick the other way, and the other end will be white and the other end will be red. So we'll ultimately have two LEDs wired through this here, and we'll figure out the circuit later on. But this is the first step, and it also makes a pretty good test train for the track. So I'm going to go and give it a spin.